So the very first thing that you want to think of when you're using colored pencils is the ability to show dark and to show light. So here, press hard, okay? That's just the pressure. So if I press hard, the color that I make is going to show up darker. If I press soft, the color that I create will show up lighter. So it's almost like I can get a few different colors out of one pencil just depending on how hard or soft I press. Okay, so we are going to go over some colored pencil techniques here. So colored pencils, basically, is what they sound like. They are pencils but have colors. You can sharpen them using your little handheld sharpeners or my sharpener. We have different kinds of colored pencils. We have just regular colors, and we also have metallic colors, which give a little shine to them. Okay, so just like with regular pencils, you don't want to press so hard that your pencils are going to break when you are using them. So let's begin. Okay, so our first little section here is called layering or burnishing. So if I'm going to color with a colored pencil, you want to start going back and forth. And the key thing here is if you want this color to become darker, what you don't want to do is press super, super hard. Number one, you could break the pencil. Number two, it kind of leaves a texture on the paper sometimes when you press really hard. And that's distracting to the artwork because we want it to all be the same texture. So if I want this to become darker, what I do here is I layer. So I was just coloring up and down. So now I will color side to side. But try not to leave any gaps. Okay? If you still want it even darker, do a different direction. Now I'm going diagonally. So that's how you build up color and not ruin the texture of the paper and the integrity of the paper, okay? You can see how this part that I have layered here is darker than this part that I'm just coloring up and down. Okay, so that is called layering or burnishing. And that would be good, like maybe if you're going to color a sky and it needs to be a nice vibrant color, think about doing it like this. This does take time. Colored pencil takes time because the tip of our pencils are so small that it's hard to cover large areas. But if you have the patience to do it, it ends up looking beautiful, just very beautiful. Okay? So this is layering with different colors. So this is a way you can kind of blend colors together. So if I color here, and let's pick a different color. Let's go pick a violet. Actually, let's pick a blue. See if we can make a kind of a violet color. So this tones down my red. I'm putting blue on top of the red. And I'm creating a new color there. I can also do this with a green. And a green plus a red, since they're complementary colors, they should kind of neutralize each other, so they'll kind of create like a grayish kind of color. And then you can go back and put more red on top. So this is how we blend colors, because like we can't blend colors like we would with paint. We can't mix them, so we have to layer. Okay, so that is layering. All right, your next one is directional lines, and these are when you color following the same stroke. So all my strokes are going up towards the diagonal. I'm not changing them, going a different way. So I'm always starting over here and I'm stroking up. This is also can be called feathering. So this is a nice way to add interest to your piece if you're doing hair, even if you're just making wind or something like that. You could do it this way. Notice how I'm changing colors to make them look like they're flowing into one another. Okay. Sometimes I'm pressing a little harder than others. Sometimes I'm pressing really light, changing the pressure. And some are going in further than others. Some are staying on the outside. That's a good way to make it look like it naturally just blends. You change up. Okay, so that's directional lines. Very, very pretty if you do that correctly. All right, the next thing that we have is cross-hatching. So cross-hatching is when it's kind of like directional lines. I sort of go one way, but this time I cross. So I'm kind of combining my layering and my directional lines, and I cross hatch. The difference here with layering, I just colored back and forth like this. With cross hatching, you kind of have to pick up your pencil and go back to where you started. So I cross, I pick it up, I cross, I pick it up. And what I'm creating here is kind of like a bunch of little squares or diamonds, however you see that. And this is a good way also to layer, to add shadow, to make things darker. You know, and then if you wanted to get lighter, pull out, change the pressure of your pencil, lighten your pressure. You can still cross hatch. You can cross hatch till it's super, super duper light. Okay. Usually cross hatching works best with a sharper pencil rather than a dull pencil, just so you know. You can also do it the same thing like we did up here with the blending. You can layer those colors. So if I wanted to, I could add some blue here. I can even cross hatch in a new direction with the blue. Okay, cross hatching. Alright, your next one is scumbling. Scumbling, I love scumbling just because I feel like I'm being bad with my materials, because scumbling is just scribble. It's scribbling, but it's controlled scribbling. Okay, so if I'm trying to do a piece and I want to just do it a different way, or maybe I want to add a texture to something to make it stand out, I can choose scumbling. So I'm just doing like loop-de-loop lines, and when I scumble, I like to layer the colors to add depth. If you just do one color or one layer, it just doesn't give the effect. So you want to think about adding on. And it's okay if you go back to your original color to add more. Scumbling. Alright, next we're going to do a watercolor wash. So for this, I first need to paint something here and let it dry. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so I have painted a flower here and with watercolor, and I waited for it to dry. So now what I can do is you can layer colors on top of this watercolor paint. And so that's like if you wanted to maybe add more texture that you weren't able to get with the paintbrush, you could do that now. This would also be good to show value, to make some things lighter and some things darker. So I'm taking like a darker violet here to put a little shadow at the bottom of my flower petals, and you can even add the texture there. Pressing a little harder. Okay, the next thing is we can blend using oil. So for us, we're going to use baby oil. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to lay some colors next to each other. And I have a little bit of baby oil in a container like this. You don't need a lot at all. I have like one little drip in there. And then I use a Q-tip. Okay, get the oil on your Q-tip. And I'm moving in a circular motion. What this does is it just kind of softens the marks that you made. You can even tell if I go out, it's kind of blending a little bit. So it doesn't look so harsh, it looks a lot softer and kind of smokier. And the colors are transitioning into each other very easily and softly. The thing you have to be careful though with oil is it does stain your paper if you get it in an area that is not colored, and it can stain your clothes. Okay, so that is how we use oil, and these are basic colored pencil techniques.